Hey, deserving listeners, Chris and Paige, let's watch.
You all for making comments that were inappropriate in nature regarding her. And I also apologize directly to her mom, her dad, and her stepdad, because you gave your daughter away to this guy. And to see him act as immature and childish as I did is disgusting.
Okay, so he's apologizing. It's a little weird, though, because he, just a few months ago was saying those things about how she was unattractive, her face was awful in this way. And then now he's saying he's sorry and he was immature and he's not good, he repents. So if, because he's done that a few times where he will do stuff and then he'll apologize because he seems sincere when he's apologizing, but when you repeatedly do the things and then you apologize for it, you have to wonder, are you really sorry, or are you just saying you're sorry? Are you used to saying you're sorry when you're not really internalizing or not really thinking about it? I don't know. There's something odd about that. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Arrogance. I'm embarrassed by it. I offended this valuable queen who I was undeserving of.
I hear you. I want to tell you, Chris, you have beautifully prepared answers to these things, and I commend you. It's like beautiful media training. You're gonna take a couple punches. You got to be ready for it.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, if you're trying to, clean up your image with the internet, and you have these political responses, and you don't really mean them, then maybe that's what's happening. I don't know, but that seems to be what the host is implying.
Both of us to probably have waited for that.
I should have waited.
Why did y'all keep having sex if things were rocky?
No sex talk, please.
Yeah.
Please.
I am not trying to be disrespectful. I'm asking you this because I'm a fan of the show also.
Yeah, I just rather not have I'd rather not talk about the sex.
Yeah, good for them. I don't know why that has to be discussed. And I don't understand why it's such a weird thing. They were married, and for the first 5 days, they were having sex sometimes, because at that point, they were in it to win it. They didn't know about the child, and he was like, I'm not really into her, but maybe a spark will grow, maybe if we have sex a number of times. The show seems to approach sex in this, I don't know how to say it, this almost puritanical way. And then there's all this judgment around it. And I'm really glad that Paige is like, no, I don't want to talk about that. And probably because Paige and Chris detect there's really no way out of that conversation. There's no way to justify to the way the show is edited or the tone of the show, their actions. Even if the two of them were like, I don't know if this is going to work, but, we could have sex. I mean, it's fine. Plus, they're married. So, I don't know. So good for them if they're like, I don't think there's any way to win on this conversation. Let's not talk about it.
You have handled yourself in a dignified and graceful manner today.
Because this
I want you to stop. I don't want you to stop.
Okay.
I want you to continue that.
For you, Kevin. This for you, Kevin.
Don't let the anger eat you up. He is here as help, not as an adversary.
So the friend, the other pastor who was a friend of Chris, is saying that he can't handle correction. He doesn't. And then right away, Chris starts to amp up his hostility towards him. And we've seen that before. And that was my observation throughout the season, that whenever there was a hint of criticism, that was extremely threatening to him. And he, I think, was quite hurt by that or quite scared, and he would transfer that into hostility. And I think he considers criticism to be a massive threat. And why would that be? Well, usually it's because people have either specifically criticism trauma when they're growing up or rejection trauma in general. Because a criticism is a mild rejection. Now, in our differentiated mature selves, we're able to handle those minor rejections. When I go to a student and I say that, your paper was pretty good, but this paragraph needs some work, that's some criticism, and it's a mild rejection. Now, hopefully the student can handle that and say like, oh, okay, yeah, that kind of stings a little bit, but I need to regulate and say that maybe not all my paragraphs are awesome. And he's giving me advice, and I'm a graduate student, and I don't know everything. So let's work on that. And I don't think that Chris has that capacity. I think for whatever reason, his upbringing was such that it's really, really hard for him to tolerate any kind of criticism. Now, another reason why people can be sensitive to criticism related to this actually is specifically with narcissistic personality disorder. I am not diagnosing him with that. I would never diagnose from afar with particularly that disorder. I need a lot of time to assess people for that. But I'm guessing some people are thinking it, so I'll say that in general for people with narcissistic personality, because they have a vast sea of inferiority and insecurity, and they believe that they are nothing. They've been treated usually as if they were nothing. People with narcissistic personality disorder, typically in their first few years of life and maybe beyond, were treated like they were nothing, usually emotional neglect. And as a result, they developed this defensive structure early in life, maybe even when they were 2 years old and beyond, that they were going to solve the problem by building this fantasy that they are superior. They feel massively inferior and they're being treated that way, but then they trick themselves into having this, it's almost like a pretend. They pretend that they are superior, and it feels good for a while. But in order to pretend that you're superior, you have to assert your superiority, you have to brag, you have to put other people down, and you have to have narcissistic supply to distract yourself from this vast sea of inferiority. And you also have to trick other people, because if other people think you're inferior, then that causes you to question, am I inferior? And you don't want to have that question, because then you fall into the sea and you drown. So when you are criticized under those circumstances, that's a marker of not inferiority, but to the black and white thinker of the narcissistic personality individual, it is that way. To have any kind of a flaw means that they have to look into that sea and see all the flaws that they have beating themselves up about on the inside. So they can be extremely sensitive to criticism and will reject the criticism, and they will come up on top and they'll turn it around on you and say, no, there's something wrong with you. I don't know if that's what's happening here.
That's absolutely fine. The nature of what I'm called to do as a pastor, it is my job.
You went
Chris, hold on. Chris,
you're gonna let me talk?
No, I'm saying what I said.
You gonna let me talk?
You want to talk? You want to come on camera and talk? Well, let's talk then.
Paige,
I'm
ask
saying
him to
what I
stop,
had to
please.
say because
Just
you
tell
ain't
him to
reached out.
stop.
So I don't know what's happening for Chris on the inside, but we do see a behavior where, and he's done this many times, where if anyone has a criticism of him, he will overpower, will not let them talk, and will, I think, become escalated in terms of his distress level. He exhibits that in his body language and almost looks like he might become physically aggressive with his friend.
So, Chris, just stop for a second. Stop for a second, okay? Go ahead, Pastor Dwight.
Chris, I understand. He wants me to have gone through him and that things, but I didn't have time to go through him.
And that's why
I wanted to go to the.
Hear what he got to say.
Listen, now you gonna stop cussing at me.
Hey, we can get it cracking, bro. I swear to God, bro. I swear to God.
So now he's, I think, threatening him verbally, and that's what's happening. So it's interesting to see this interaction, because it's a continuation of the pattern that we saw in the season. And I kind of wish we had more data from the season. We didn't actually get much I didn't get much to grab onto in terms of how to figure out what's going on. I'm always trying to conceptualize what's going on for people, and we're getting a little bit more data here.
I don't give a bro. I'm not. We can get it cracking, bro. I swear.
Chris, I can't believe it. Chris,
I'm not here to.
Chris, why are you doing this right now? Chris, why are you doing this right now? Chris, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break. I want you to take. Chris, hold on, Chris.
And Paige, ever the nice person, always patient, always kind, always helpful, always giving to the situation, always sacrificing herself. If anyone should be getting off the couch and walking away, it should be her. But she's just so kind, and I worry about her putting herself on the back burner. I'm glad that she's nice. I like nice people. I consider myself a nice person. But I think for Paige, I worry about her. I worry that she doesn't consider herself, doesn't allow herself to be a part of the equation and is often trying to manage other people. I don't know what she's been through in her life, but it's not uncommon for people with that presentation to have seen a lot of conflict when they were growing up, and they learned to put themselves on the back burner and be helpful to people around them so that other people got along so that they could feel safe again. But obviously the cost of that is they habitually and have as a pattern, they put themselves in the back burner and they don't even notice themselves.
Chris.
Disrespectful ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Man, you. If you got an issue, come to the parking lot.
Paige, and Pastor, just wait a second. Let him.
So he's still trying to fight him. And if you didn't know the details, I'll give you the details. So for Chris, he has this friend. He considers him like a brother for many years, because I think Chris wanted to be a pastor. His dad's a pastor, and this other guy's a pastor. Anyway, they're close friends. And then Pastor Dwight, during the run of the show, went to Paige to talk with her because Paige was she wanted to talk with someone. And so she talked with Dwight. They met in a restaurant or a cafe or something. They were talking about what to do about Chris. And Dwight said something like, I don't know if he was really into it from the beginning because he doesn't seem to be going into the process of this show with 100% into the scenario, because and it's not a bad accusation. Now Chris could have a problem with that. He doesn't like it when people say that, and I think that's fine. He's like, no, I've been into this from the beginning. Anyway, but what the problem that Chris has with this situation is that another man met with his wife behind his back, and he feels like Dwight should have reached out to him first. Okay, but it's not terrible that Paige met with him to talk about the relationship. They didn't say anything horrible about him. It was on camera the whole time. And okay, but even if you had that complaint, you could voice that and say like, look, I didn't like that you did that, and could you not do that in the future? Okay. I'm sorry I did that, Chris. I won't do that in the future. Instead, he completely cuts him off. I'm done with you, which lends itself to the idea that there's some other threat there. And again, just speculating. There are people who are very sensitive to other people talking about them behind their back because they have a suspicion that other people don't like them. When you go through chronic rejection growing up, there's a lot of different schemas that you build up in your mind, different core belief systems. And so when you have people talking behind your back, even if they're not saying bad things about you, you have a paranoia about that, and you insert words into what might have been said, and then you get very hurt by those thought words, those paranoid words that didn't happen, and then you get very angry about that. So I don't know if that's happening.
Have a moment.
If you got a problem, you come to the parking lot right now.
Chris.
What is going on?
Chris.
And once again, the regression model that I've been using with Chris throughout this season of what age is he right now? Well, I would say some sort of teenager. That you don't like what someone did. You said something mean about me. You said that I don't take correction very well. And then ironically reacts very badly to the idea of him not taking correction very well. And then he regresses, and then he calls him out, and he feels like his only way of preserving any kind of integrity or self-esteem is to fight him, to fight the pastor. Which is what children will do. And I'm not saying childish in a derogatory way. I'm saying childish in a either dependent way or in a regressive way. When we go through distress, we tend to regress.
It was deeper than that. So when he comes on here and he has the tone, underlining, condescending tone, as in I tried to correct him or something, I don't have a problem with correction. I've been corrected 1,000,000 times. I don't need correction from him.
Chris, will you have a conversation eventually with him?
I don't know, but I think you can detect a level of vulnerability in him as he's talking about that the Pastor Dwight was criticizing him, I think he's deeply, deeply hurt by that. He seems like he's tearing up a little bit, which indicates, again, some level of vulnerability there, some level of trauma that's being triggered.
All right. Just remember this. Never in life let someone make you lose it like that. And you know what? You can hug him and say, you know what, brother, I love you back. And then y'all can go your separate ways and never see each other again. Anyway, from there.
And I apologize to you and I apologize to Paige. I'm good.
Okay.
So there's that apology again. Is it sincere? Because these repeated acts happen. And they're not just outbursts. They're extended periods of time where he is exhibiting some kind of behavior that later on he apologizes for. Is he really sorry? Or is that just him saying that he's sorry to try to gain some sort of approval or something? I don't know. It's possible that he does lose control and then later is sorry. You know, that happens sometimes.
Oh, you know, she's not my type, whatever the case may be. This is all news to me, you know? I think sometimes outside looking in, they're just kind of like, girl, like, you don't see the red flags? Are you stupid? Like, she got a lot of self-esteem issues to be dealing with a man like that. And that's extremely hurtful.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone should be saying those things to her. I mean, I've said things kind of in that direction, but I would never shame her for that. I've said that there's a possibility that she does have self-esteem. I wouldn't say self-esteem issues. I would say connection with the self. Because when I say connection with the self, I mean, as he is doing things to her that hurt her feelings, if you're really connected with your feelings and your needs, you'll notice like, wow, I'm being hurt right now. This person is hurting me right now. This doesn't feel good. I don't like this. The way that she reacts to him, and even kind of in this situation after the blow up, she is very she's very, you know, I don't know if I show this, but he ran off while saying, I'll meet you outside. Let's get into a fight, you know, Pastor Dwight. And he goes into his car and she follows him all the way out there, gets into the car and gets him to calm down. And why? They're going to get a divorce and Chris is shooting himself in the foot, and yet she considers it her job to calm him down. So I don't think it's a self-esteem issue. I think it's an issue of, am I connected with my feelings? Because if I am, I don't want to deal with this stuff right now. I have other things to do in life other than trying to always be patient with this person and pick up the pieces after them and always help them when they never seem to help me. Now, maybe off camera, it is more mutual. On camera, it does not seem very mutual. And I think, but I will say that I didn't know that she's going, it sounds like on the internet or whatever, or comments, people are saying that, you know, there's something wrong with her for continuing to go back to him. And I think all of us can remember at least one relationship in which we continued to go back and later on thought, why did I do that? You know, love is weird and attraction is weird. And she told why. She says why. She's like, look, when I got married, I was in it to win it. And so when he was having his ups and downs, I didn't like it, but I was in it to win it. And I was committed to this process. I really wanted to see it through. So it makes sense to me.
Place of hate, just a place of like bewilderment. So that's why, you know, we're here to explain that today.
Yeah, and I will never excuse his behavior, his actions. He knows that I felt very disgusted by a lot of those actions. I felt abandoned. I was committed to this process and seeing it through.
Okay, so maybe she was in connection with her feelings, but the overriding value and motivation was seeing the process through, which, you know, makes sense. I think surprisingly, when y'all asked me to watch this show in the past, I thought, oh, this must be some kind of fake thing. But from the looks of it, everyone that is on this show, when they get married, they're going to do this thing. You know, they want to see if this is going to work for the rest of, like Love is Blind, similar situation there. So she was getting married, and you say, I will love you through thick and thin, sickness and in health, till, you know, death do us part. And I think she was dedicated to that.
For a dark alley, I can't say that I would handle myself as well.
Okay, last thing. Is Paige okay?
No, my friend is not okay. I know that she's gonna be on a journey of healing, and I know that any man that comes into her life will have to help her unpack some of these wounds that he's caused.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.